Hello, thank you for joining the Lazaridis School for our Beyond the Degree video series. My name is Graham McCormick, and I'm the Corporate Engagement Officer for the Lazaridis School of Business Economics at Wilfrid Laurier University and a BBA alumnus from 2011. Today, we're joined by Jaspreet Dehl, Managing Partner and Chief Financial Officer, Private Equity at Brookfield Asset Management, and an alumna of the Bachelors of Economics program, class of 1999, and a CPA. Jaspreet has held a number of senior finance positions within Brookfield's private equity group and in Brookfield's private funds group. Prior to joining Brookfield, Jaspreet was part of the financial advisory services practice at Deloitte, specializing in corporate restructuring and transaction execution services to private equity clients. Jaspreet, thanks for joining me today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
To get things going, you did your Bachelors of Economics at the Lazaridis School. Why did you choose Laurier, and what drew you to the economics program?
So, I don't know if I should tell you this, but it was a little bit by default. I had just moved to Canada from India, and I had a commerce business background. That's what I had done and specialized in high school in India. And then when I moved, I was looking for a business economics program, and I had family in Waterloo. So Waterloo was comfortable. I knew people, had a bit of an ecosystem there. And Laurier obviously had a great reputation as a business school. So that made a lot of sense. And, I started taking courses, took some business courses, math, economics. And, the math and economics was more my speed, if you will, relative to marketing and communications and some of that stuff. I just kind of go more to logic and facts, and that's kind of where I ended up. So I started, in the economics program, and got into my second year, the co-op program at Laurier, which was amazing. And, that was part of my consideration and kind of joining Laurier in the first instance. And as I started looking at, job opportunities and potential careers through the co-op program, I kind of realized that in economics, I'm going to be in school a really long time, probably have to get a PhD before, I could get a decent job or something that, I'd really kind of enjoy. So I doubled up and started taking accounting courses and ended up doing a double major. And, the rest, as they say, is history.
Well, it's interesting. A lot of our students who go through the economics program do, I think it's almost 50%, end up looking at accounting and, doing a CPA. And, we did a series of videos with a couple of Bachelors of Economics students last year who all ended up, kind of in the accounting stream. This is a great segue to my next question. So you started your career at Deloitte, in audit, in transition to their financial advisory services practice. How did that change influence your career choices later on?
So, I did my first co-op term, a second co-op term actually at Deloitte, and then started there full time with the intention of doing my CPA. And starting an audit is, a great way, in my opinion, to start a career in finance. It really gives you the depth and breadth of all things financial reporting. Like if you've, gone through a number of different industries and companies, we looked at your financial statements inside out. It gives you an amazing base to build a finance career. What I found a couple of years into being at Deloitte and being in auditing is that, the skill set that I was missing was some of that valuation, understanding capital structure, more financial analysis. And so I was looking to kind of round out that side of my skill set. And, Deloitte is an amazing place to work. So my first look was internally to see what opportunities were available at Deloitte. And at that time, when I transferred over to financial advisory, Deloitte had a rotation program where you could do valuation, some restructuring work, some capital advisory. So it was just a great program that they had in place. And I was lucky enough to transfer in there. And, I was in that group for a better part of 2 years, maybe almost 3. And it really did kind of round out not just my skill set, but also confidence. You get confidence because you're doing a lot of different things. You're getting thrown into different aspects of still finance, but different aspects of business problems and analysis. And when I left Deloitte and moved into kind of my next role, it did give me a lot of confidence to kind of do more than what we typically is kind of your controllership function and the financial reporting function. So it gave me the right skill set, but it also gave me the confidence to know that, okay, I could take on more than what the core accounting stream, the auditing stream teaches you.
Well, and I think it's, you one thing that really resonates with me is that you're able to find an opportunity within the company you were at. So, you didn't have to change every single thing, and you were able to, understand the culture still and really apply yourself to learning, some of these, different aspects of a completely different job. You touched on it a little bit, but how do you think your CPA has helped you during your time at Brookfield? And what would you say to anyone who's thinking about making a move into industry?
So maybe I'll answer the second part of your question first, because I think you kind of touched on it in your comments. Like when you're looking to make a move, whether it's from an accounting firm into industry or from one job to the next, I think one of the most critical aspects, especially when you're early in your career, is don't focus so much on your job title. Don't focus on money. Obviously is important, but if you're building the right skills, like that, compensation will come. So early in your career, I think what you want to be focused on is joining an industry or being part of a sector that excites you. So there has to be something that engages you in the sector that you're going into. And the second, and maybe even more important for me, is the organization that you're joining. You want to be part of an organization and a team that's going to invest in you, where you're going to learn, you're going to continue to build on your skill sets. You'll be given opportunities to take on kind of more leadership, more responsibility. Because if you move into a role where, especially early in your career, like when you just get your CPA and it's your first job out of an accounting firm, and you stagnate at that point, that's very difficult, and kind of finding that rhythm again sometimes gets hard. And I think a lot of us, especially the CPAs that are going through the public accounting route, go from university to one of the public accounting firms where you have a lot of structure. There's a real emphasis on building skill sets, providing training, having mentorship, and you kind of think and you take that for granted. And then, sometimes you move into industry and realize that that isn't the norm. So I think it's very important to pay attention. Like you want to be in an area, in a sector where you feel some connection, something that excites you, but you want to be in an organization that's going to continue to invest in you, where you can continue to grow and learn. So I think that's really important. And then, the first part of your question on the CPA kind of helping, I'd say between the degree and the learning at Laurier, and then, that was kind of the first foundational building block. And layered on top of that, the CPA kind of training that I got at Deloitte, or anybody get at a public accounting firm, like that really sets you up for basically the rest of your career. I still reference. You're not an accountant, so you might not appreciate this, but the accounting firms teach you how to reference every working paper, and that skill. 20 years later, I'm still like, if anybody on my team gives me something, I'm like, where's the references? How does all of this tie in? So something as basic as that, but the bigger picture, being able to kind of analyze things, doing the detailed work, but being able to step back and look at the forest from the trees. I think all of that, you really kind of develop those skills when you're doing your CPA, and you take them with you in every role that you take through your career. And that's kind of what I've found at Brookfield, even as I've transitioned, doing a number of different things within the organization here. Those core skill set is still very much in play.
I think there's a lot of really great information there. And I think one of the things you hit on that we see a lot is that you're right. The accounting firms are exceptional supports, as you're an accounting student and then as you work through your CPA. And that when you go to make that change, if you go into industries, find a company that is a great fit. And that if you really like that structure of that learning and that education, find a company that has that, because you're right. A lot, don't do that. And it does set you up, for the remainder of your career. Mm-hmm. You've been with Brookfield for about 10 years now, and as you mentioned, you've had a couple of different roles, increasingly senior. You had a front row seat to the initial public offering of Brookfield Business Partners. As CFO, where do you see the future of Canadian private equity, and what impact do you think ESG, environmental, social, and governance, will have on it?
Wow, that's a really heavy question.
I got a little bit of help from our finance faculty on that one.
All right. So, look, private equity, it's a very mature industry. It's been around a really long time. I'd say, what we've seen in the last 15, 20 years is a real growth in the alternative space. So whether it's, private equity, which is more buying operating businesses, or real estate investing, commercial buildings, hotels, what have you, or infrastructure, the toll roads, airports. There's a lot of private capital kind of flowing to all of these alternative asset classes. A lot of institutional capital, pardon me. And, that's grown exponentially over the last few years. And I think we're going to continue to see that flow of capital, just because there's not a lot of alternatives for institutional investors to put their money to work. If you're a pension fund, you're an insurance company, the fixed income markets today, with where the interest rates are, just don't provide you with the returns that you're looking for. So on the risk spectrum, alternatives provide a good alternative for institutional capital. So I think you'll continue to see capital flowing to private equity and other alternatives. The flip side of it is that private equity has typically kind of outperformed. So you do, for that slightly additional risk that you're taking on, you're getting that additional return profile. So I think it's going to be important for managers to continue to deliver those risk-adjusted returns. And you might see a little bit of consolidation in the industry towards managers that are being more cautious with the capital and delivering on returns. But I'd say broadly, the industry, in my opinion, is going to continue to grow, and it's an exciting area for people to be employed and working as well. So there's a lot of interest, just from a talent attraction perspective as well.
So that's a great segue. What advice would you have for students looking to pursue a career in private equity? And what leadership skills do you think the next generation will need to be successful?
So I didn't answer your ESG question, but we can circle back to that if you want. For private equity, what I find is, of course, you need your basic skills, your financial analysis, your technical skills are table stakes, and you have to have those capabilities. But I think what really sets people apart is people that have that interest and curiosity in business. So, what drives value in the business? How does this business operate? What can we do better? And it's that general curiosity about business, because in private equity, you can be investing across sectors. So you can buy a manufacturing business, you can buy a construction business, you can have power, infrastructure. So there's a variety of things that you can be investing in. And having that curiosity and having that interest in really learning businesses and learning value drivers, I think is what sets people a little bit apart, and what really makes people successful, at least in what I've seen over the last 10 to 15 years kind of working in the industry. And then, in terms of leadership, I'd say, it's no different from any other organization. As you progress, your soft skills become more and more important. So, having the ability to lead teams, being collaborative, being easy to work with, and having kind of that inclusive type of leadership style, I think is very important. You have to be able to handle stress, and we've all kind of seen that in spades in the last year with, a lot of things being thrown at you. I'd say the other piece, at least in my kind of career, that's really helped from a leadership perspective, is taking ownership and responsibility. If you make a mistake, own up to it, learn from it. If something goes really well, make sure you share credit with your team, because I promise you couldn't have done it without them. So, taking ownership and responsibility is really important. And I think, for somebody who's still early in their career, that starts like from day one. Like, when you're a brand new accountant doing an audit and you're assigned the cash balance, like that is your responsibility. Take ownership of that and do the best job that you can. And, that sense should grow as you grow in your career. And, if you're the CEO of a business one day, now the entire business is your responsibility, but you should have the same kind of, feeling of ownership around that. And then the last thing I'd say is, being honest. And I hate using the word authentic because it's used so much now, but it really does matter, right? Like people, we're all human, and you're gonna get some things right, you'll do some things wrong. You got to be honest. You got to own up to things. You got to, lead with your strengths. So here are the things that I'm good at. And if there's things that I see in other people that I can learn from, acknowledging that and continuing to grow. So I think those are all kind of very important leadership skills, and, they've served me well over my career, and I've bumped my toe a number of times and, learned from that. But those are the things that I kind of have stuck.
I think, all of that is just exceptional advice, both for, our students coming in and, our young alumni, that, being the same person, day in, day out, all these other things, owning mistakes. It's just, again, everyone's going to make mistakes. I think all of that is just great, Jaspreet. I'm just looking at the clock and I'm noticing we're almost out of time. And I thought, I have one last question for you. What do you think businesses can do to help attract young women to the financial services sector? And what advice would you have for any women who are interested in a career on Bay Street?
So like maybe I'll start with the advice.
Mhm.
So I've made this mistake in my own career, and I've seen a lot of women that I've worked with over the years make it as well. And what we tend to do is self-select. So we'll have a perception of something and kind of decide that, you know what, if I, as an example, if I want a family, I can't work in private equity. It's just too demanding, and I'm going to go look for something that has more regular hours. And you know, we go through all of this internal debate, and we make these decisions, and we self-select and take a step back and say, okay, you know, this isn't for me. And the advice that I would give is don't do that. Like, you know, there is so much support today, in just generally in organizations and businesses, but especially in financial services, because there's such an underrepresentation of women in the industry. There's so much support that if you actually, you know, if you ask, there's a lot that you'll be able to get. So, you know, talk to people. Don't make those decisions without exploring all of your options. Be open, be honest. And I'd say, you know, 9 times out of 10, it'll probably kind of work out. And, you know, you'll have to give a little, and the organizations will give a little, but you'll be able to find that balance. So that would be my number one advice is, you know, if you're thinking of making a big career decision, make sure that you're looking at all of your options before you make that decision. And then I'd say, you know, just from there, moving to organizations, you know, we're seeing this a lot today, and organizations are recognizing that in order for them to retain and continue to grow, you know, their high performing talent, especially women, they're going to have to be more inclusive. They're going to have to be more flexible. And, you know, that's not just for women. Like, you know, the expectation of women today is that their partner is going to be part of and contribute just as much to everything that's going on in life. So I think organizations are starting to recognize that, and you know, are building a lot of those kind of key policies, and they're not. It's not just lip service; like you're actually seeing it in execution. So I'd say, you know, explore the opportunities, ask for what you need. Don't self-select out, and there is a lot of support in the industry and in organizations for women to succeed. So, you know, there's a lot of green space. Step into it.
Jaspreet, thank you for sharing your insights and your experiences with us today. I know it'll be of great value to everyone in the Lazaridis School and Laurier community. Thank you again for watching Beyond the Degree, featuring Jaspreet Dehl, Managing Partner and CFO Private Equity at Brookfield Asset Management, and a graduate of the Lazaridis School.
Thank you.